All right, so let's get started, and happy to see people already joining. So welcome to this week's PTC Talks, where we are honored by having Philippe Adam from A Priori and Paul Hames from PTC for a session on harness the power of AI for immediate impact, quick wins for business transformation. But first, a very quick introduction by me. My name is Torbjörn Peterson, and I'm the Alliance Manager at PTC, leading these weekly webinars where we invite customers and partners for some inspiration on digital transformation to see what is possible and how to make things happen. And we are running these webinars on Friday, same time, with topics around either manufacturing, services, or engineering, and all the recordings are to be found on the registration site. The agenda for today is first a very quick overview of PTC by me, and then Philippe and Paul will run the show where they will touch base on a few challenges, how to address these, and then explain some of the business outcomes. At the end, we're also having a Q&A session, so please keep your questions to the end. We may also put them in the chat, and we will pick them up during the Q&A. So just a quick overview of PTC for those who don't know us. PTC is a global software company with a headquarters in Boston, and we provide market-leading solutions on IoT, augmented reality, PLM, CAD, SLM, and ALM through the digital thread to help companies to accelerate their digital transformation. So over to you, Philippe.
Thank you very much, Torbjörn. Good afternoon, everybody. I think it's already afternoon in Europe, maybe good morning for a few in the US. I don't know if we have a few people from the US. So today we're going to talk about AI. Before that, so my name is Philippe Adam. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at A Priori, and I'm very happy. So thank you very much for inviting us to be here. Very happy to be here. The topic of the day is really to demystify a little bit AI and see what we can do and what our customers are doing with AI today, connected with your PLM and your CAD investment. So we're going to look at the agenda I'm proposing for today is to look at an example around how to improve productivity in the manufacturing space, and we're going to talk mainly in discrete manufacturing. Then how to decrease your time to market that will impact your cash flow, also improve your cash flow, and after that we'll move to the next step and see how you can move to a more broader AI solutions that one of our customers is already using. So before we do that, maybe a few words on A Priori. So as you probably heard already, we are a cloud software solution provider. We develop software solutions to help discrete manufacturing companies to unlock and identify very quickly, new innovations. So innovating is critical for manufacturers those days. That will then drive cost, that will drive growth, but also at the same time making sure that you improve, the profitability of your product. And now involve also sustainability, which is a rising topic in Europe for sure, but coming to the US. What we also do is that we don't do that ourselves. We leverage digital transformation investment. So your PLM investment, your CAD investment, we just inject new data in all the systems to help those systems to deliver even more value and identify a new way to reduce cost or minimize risk. We are focused, the main dimensions we're focused on are profitability, manufacturability, sustainability. But as you will see in the presentation, we do way more than that. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. If you have any question, we can do that during the Q&A. The real question is, why do we exist, right? And we exist because manufacturers are facing four major challenges for quite some time, but I would say those challenges are accelerating as we speak. High production costs, nothing new here based on what happened over the last 2 or 3 years. Inefficiency in supply chain management. One increasing or growing topic is longer development cycles, right? And longer development cycles impact, significantly cash flow. What we see here is that if you delay, your product go to market, then you're going to impact significantly your what we call NPV, net present value, which impact directly your cash flow. And that's a huge impact for companies, because cash flow means you need to find ways to minimize your expenses which sometimes have dramatic consequences for companies. And as we see from a Gartner quote, 55%, they say that 55% of all product launches are taking place on schedule, which means that 45% of them are not. And to be honest, when we discuss with our customers, it seems that it's even way higher than that. And sustainability, as we said, which is a growing topic. So we exist because those four challenges exist in the manufacturing space. And if you look at each of them and combine those four together, it becomes a pretty complex equation to solve, right? Now, on the other side, when we look at specific surveys and analysis that some of the consulting companies are doing, here is one from Capgemini. The leaders want to invest more in digital technologies, right? Digital twin, digital transformation, digital thread. They all want to go there, but you see that there is one which is raising a lot on top of the other one that we're already at the top of the agenda. Is AI and generative AI. That's probably the first one now that we see in 2024 on the as part of the top 5 digital technology investment areas, right? There is another aspect of it, which is if the leaders want to invest in those technologies because they see the benefits of those technology and they see what they can do with it, the executive team is a little bit more reluctant. And they are more reluctant because so far the main question they have, hey, look, we did invest a lot of money already. We want to invest more money in those kind of things. We heard that AI and generative AI can drive more productivity, will help us to be more competitive. But how and where is the return on investment? Show me the return on investment. Show me the dollars or the time or whatever that is really tangible for me to value this investment in technology. And that's what we're going to discuss today, right? Which is how you can, with PTC and a priori, start to put some project in place step by step that will help you to demonstrate the value of the investment you made and you will continue to make on those specific areas: digital twin, digital thread, AI, between PTC and a priori. So before we jump into the topic, let's talk a little bit about AI, and because that's a hot area. Everybody's talking about it. Maybe some people are a little bit lost in all those different terminology. So I try to simplify, and it's really simplified, but I think it's important to know, right? There are way more than two major categories in AI, or two categories in AI. But if you summarize what exists for the moment, I'm saying for the moment, not in 5 years from now, in 30 years from now, for the moment, you may see two major categories of AI solutions. One that I qualify, traditional AI. Some people would call that narrow AI. And another one, which is generative AI, right? Traditional AI is really very, you may know that as deterministic AI, which is, you're going to apply pre-programmed rules, looking at a lot of data, and you're going to apply algorithm to make decisions, right? And those decisions are going to open new ways of doing things that potentially you never thought about, right? With, phenomenal consequences around, cost reduction, for example, or lead time and those kind of things. And what we see today, at least, that's what we see because we are a part of that, is that it's more and more used in manufacturing, in logistics, and other industries. On the other side, you have generative AI, which is more, algorithm that will analyze a lot of data to identify patterns, and then they're going to generate new content. And you see a lot of Gen AI around, the software code, the image, text, also generation. That's a lot of things, right? So let's be clear around those two definitions, because it's critical to understand, what we do and where it applies. So now, without waiting too much time, let's take a look at the first example that I wanted to propose here, which is how AI insights. So we generate what we call manufacturing insights. How AI insights can decrease product costs and optimize carbon footprint when you design a product, or even when the product is designed and you want to run a value analysis, value engineering exercise. So you're going to see two different ways of doing things. And I'm going pretty fast here, but if you want to look at this presentation, it will be available. We have a lot of content between PTC and a priori that you can share, and you can go to also your PTC rep. Two ways of doing things. The old way, which is you work with your existing software or your Excel spreadsheet. I have to say Excel spreadsheet most of the time, when you want to evaluate the cost of a new product or cost of an existing product, right? So you have sometimes, and I should say most of the time, outdated data. Data in AI is number one, right? So if you don't have the right data, that's not going to drive the right output for you. You're going to look at a lot of formulas that you did build over the last 30 years. You're going to go around simulations on your Excel spreadsheet, and the what we see most of the time is that the data used are very siloed, right? They are very specific for what you do, but they are not usually including all the different parameters that are coming from other departments that are critical, right? Like a geometry of a product or something like that. So that's the old way. And the new way is more, hey, you have a system. The data are updated on a regular basis, meaning sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly, depending of the matter. You can extract 3D geometry directly from what you want to identify as a cost or carbon footprint. And you're going to run a lot of tests around that and see not only what is the cost, but what are the other alternatives that would help me to maybe reach a target that I've been given, right? And those two ways are the way we see in companies, right? The old way, which is probably what we see in 85 to 90% of the companies. Then you have this transition that now is accelerating, where you have a lot of manufacturers looking the AI way to do things because it opens new horizons that nobody had. So with an example, the old way, you go and you want to quote a new product, and you start to design it, and or you have a new one, and again you do a value analysis, value engineering. You say, okay, I want to decrease the price of that, so let's go back to our suppliers and see what it does. Traditional way, based on what I said before, you run your Excel spreadsheet, you go with to your suppliers, and supplier A is going to give you, oh, it's going to cost you $30 a part. Supplier B is going to say $35 a part. You're going to go back and forth for multiple weeks sometimes between the supplier and your company to come to a point where between those two you're gonna find a middle way. So let's say you find $32.5 for a part. Multiply that by 1,000,000, which is what the number of units you're going to produce. You come with 32,500,000, right? The new way will be way more automatic. You download the CAD model automatically. You inject that into your solution, our solution a priori, and you're going to have what we call a shoot cost. And the shoot cost will be $20 per part. There is a lot of rationale behind the $20 because everything that is taken is a lead time that it takes and the takt time it takes to produce that type of part, how many machine, what type of machine. There is a lot of intelligence behind it when you inject that gives you that. So just looking at those two, one is giving you a higher price per part. Why is that? Because they say, hey, look, we produce, the supplier A say, we produce that part for 5 years for you. It has always been this price. So you want us to decrease, we decrease a little bit. It takes weeks to come to that conclusion. Where on the other side is very factual. Here's a manufacturing process you use for that type of materials, that type of part, and you come with a shoot cost, which is this. That's a 12 million difference just on a $1 million unit. Doesn't take weeks to do it. It takes minutes to do it. And so you can start to imagine how fast can you be in terms of innovation, in terms of cost reduction, in terms of productivity overall, right? So that's the example number one, and we'll come back around how do we do that. Imagine we talk about 1 million, parts production for one part. How many parts, do you produce for your product today? Probably, again, 1,000 millions, depending on what you build, right? And so if you can optimize, 10, 12 millions per part,
and you multiply that by the number of parts you have, you multiply that by the number of materials, that come into play into that, you imagine how fast you can decrease, the cost, the production cost of your product. And that's where we are operating with PTC to help companies to do that across, the company. Another example that I thought was very interesting, and that's the one I was talking when I was saying that the challenge is longer development cycle. AI insights to optimize product profitability and maximize cash flow. And if we think that cost is definitely a super important topic for companies, which is true, this one is really impacting performance of a company, which impacts cash flow. When we talk about net present value, the parameters that is linked to net present value that may think a little bit complex is cash flow. And when you don't generate the cash flow you need, you have a lot of problem to pay your people. You cannot continue to run the company. So this part is way more important than cost. And that's what our customers are also doing with us and PTC. Traditional product development lifecycle is, summarized on this slide. Every company has what we call the toll gate process. Some of you may have a 4 gates. Some of you may have a 6 or 7 gates. You all probably recognize, your process here. You start with a new product development, and you have a target. And usually what you want to do when you're a design phase is, of course, you have a cost target. But what makes sense is making sure that, I don't know why it's going there, but you want to make sure that the time that you're gonna launch the product is key. And I think that this time is way more important than the cost. But you see the cost, going up. And as you move to the target, usually you think you're gonna run it at your target cost, and now more and more target carbon. But as we said, when we discuss our customers, most of them say we never launch on time, number one, and we never launch on target for cost, etc. That has a significant consequence around your cash flow, right? And you see that with other negative consequences on the right of these slides. But the number one is negative cash flow, which is critical, and which means that you're not competitive anymore. And on top of that, you cannot finance other projects. Why is that? First, when you look at the designers, they don't have the DFM checks that is required in CAD, right? So how can I make that faster to respect a specific or to achieve a specific goal? Some designers do have a cost target, but sometimes not. You may have a kind of idea of the cost target, but what's very important is if you do something, can you do it differently with the different materials, etc., right? Cost estimation takes too long. Why is that? Because usually cost, the CAD team or the design team go to a cost engineering team and they ask for an estimation around the cost of this design. It takes weeks to do that. So that's what delays your cycle. Predefined standard design constraints are rarely revisited. We have customers, they say, oh my gosh, we take this tolerance for the last 10 years or 5 years, and we never, looked at should we do that differently, right? An AI system will help you to identify, can you do it with a different tolerance that may change completely your production sales cycle and your lead time. And also add more constraint to the designer, where it's not only a cost now, it's also what is your carbon footprint around what you are trying to design. Are there other ways to minimize this carbon footprint using another material? Other material will bring new constraint, etc. Right? So root cause number 2 is that you go to on the other side of the spectrum is the sourcing team. Sourcing team, when they receive a request from a design, it's already too late most of the time for them to identify if they can change something or not. So they go to their suppliers and try to negotiate, with no data, more or less, from the product design team. And so they are really blind, more or less. They don't have even the same CAD vision of the product or the part. And so they have no real strong information to negotiate with the suppliers or to take a decision around, am I going to make it or am I going to, buy it, right? And that's critical. So you have this kind of complete disconnect between those two teams, plus many other teams around, you buy what material where, you're gonna do it where, etc. So, two different root cause, but very linked in terms of delaying your process. So if you look at, this example that I gave now, and you identify those specific root cause, and you apply it to a new product design process, right? Then you look at, the time it takes usually to do it. And, number one, when you look at that, you have a lot of loops, as we said, right? So between a toll gate, for example, 2 and 3, you're going to have a lot of, iteration. Each iteration will take time, will delay the project, and will cost a lot of money, right? And as you go there, and the more disconnect you have, and system disconnected you have in this process, the more you're going to delay the launch of the product. And you're going to come with what we saw before, which is you're not going to launch on time, but on top of that, it's going to cost you a lot of money. When we talk about money, usually, and that's a real example, right? It's an average that we saw from a material perspective, impact on material, usually 100 million. It's not difficult to find 100 million over or something like that, or just on material. But on top of that, you have labor. You lose a lot of time, and this time that you lose is also impacting the cost of of your product. And each of those loops, what we see is impacting between $1 and $3 million every time. And that's adding to your cost of your price. That's why you never launch not only on time, but also at the right cost. And that has a significant impact, as I said, on cash flow. Now, if you look at, if you use an AI product development lifecycle, that's a complete different story because everything is linked. So as I said before you go to a next step on your toll gate, automatically when the design is done, you can automatically link that to the sourcing team. The sourcing team can start to work with suppliers and understand what is the price to make it and what is the lead time to make it automatically. So you don't wait till a toll gate 3 or 4 in order to do it. It's automatically done, right? And then you're going to work, very quickly. So what was taking weeks to do because, you go to the sourcing team, you go to the costing team, now it's done in the system automatically, sending the right information to the right people and having that, closed loop very fast to the design team. Design team can change it very quickly and then go there. The impact on that is that you're going to launch usually earlier than what we think and below cost, which impacts significantly your project. I don't know why my computer is advancing, probably because I'm not on time. So let's take a look at the secret sauce behind this AI a priori solution, right? It's based on 3 major pillars that you see that. First, geometric, CAD extraction. So every time that you want to assess a design, you extract it and you then send it to a priori manufacturing insight platform. How do we process all those kind of things? Then we use what we call, manufacturing processes in our AI system. So those manufacturing processes will definitely are the process that will give you all those insights that you are looking for in terms of, are you doing it the right way by material? Which material could you use instead of the one that you have chosen, etc. What type of other design could you consider in order to reduce the cost, etc. And the third pillar is really what we would call the libraries, where you're going to have, the cost of labor, for example, for 90 regions. You're going to have a library around materials, a library around machining, and all these kind of things. And if you look at those 3 pillars, you combine that into a system, then this is how you can come with AI insights that will help you to deliver the best design on time at the right cost with the right carbon footprint. Not going to go through all the different positive impact that you see, but you can repeat your results. you can cover way more part than what you do. So more or less, you reduce your time to launch your product, and you're going to do it at the right cost, which, and this is where the executive team will be very interested, which will drive positive cash flow earlier and faster and better. And that's critical when you want to to look at ROI around that. If you look at the process by itself, it's a little bit simplified, but usually you start to understand what it does. As I said, extract the CAD, can extract it automatically as well for every part you have in your design or in your new product. You select digital factory, the analysis will run. You're going to have those analysis running in minutes. After that, you analyze the insights, you review the insights, and you're going to have already some recommendation around how can you change some of those design, or maybe start to look at different type of materials to come to a target that is better and will drive to the best in class products, right? And you're going to do that with a cost aspect, a manufacturability aspect, which results into lead time meaning cash flow, and sustainability. How do you do that now? Because on top of having the system is good, but you also need to have the backbone to do that. That's where our partnership with PTC is critical, because every insight we generate, we can extract the product or bill of materials from the PLM. We can analyze part or the entire bill of material of PLM, and then based on that, on those insights, send the recommendation to the designers, but also feed this additional data into PLM. So now, not only the design team and the manufacturing team start to use PLM, but the procurement team use PLM, the sourcing team use PLM, because you have data they are very interested in, which is not only the structure of the product, the type of products, but also the shoot cost, the shoot target, for carbon and the lead time and so on. And they can negotiate with their suppliers around, that's what I want to make. What would be the shoot cost should be that. This is why. And then you have a closed loop, which is very fast to do that. I would like to give you the next step of this, right? Because of course it drives, what we discussed before is driving a lot of value, but you're going to see that you can even deliver way more value with what I call generative AI. And one of our customers do that, right? So Eaton is a customer for a long time. They are using us for a long time, and they see a huge value around what we do, but they decided to go to the next step, which is looking at parametric data that comes from their CAD system and their PLM system, extract that, structure that, and on top of that, starts then to inject all the variation they have from parametric data based on what they want to build. So they go to a very personalized way of doing things around their lighting systems or around their gearbox, and they inject that with many scenarios around a priori. A priori will calculate cost, will calculate lead time, and is calculating way more, data than that. And based on those data that add the parametric data with the AI insights data from a priori, they inject that into an AI engine they build themselves to learn, have the system learning around all the different variation around cost, lead time, plus the parametric, to come with the best scenario for the customer and how they can, launch earlier, but also, at the right cost. And when you look at what they did, right, they have their system here. They are, looking at improving, and they are improving the design time by 65%. 65% based on combining their, existing parametric data that come from their CAD and PLM with a priori, and injecting that into an AI system, machine learning system that is, predicting, what would be the best combination between, all the different parameters on one side, which are the structure parameters of the product, with, the process and the way to build it, the material to use to come to the right cost and the right lead time, that influencing cash flow. That's what they do. And if you want to know more about what they do, we have the full interview of Eaton when they were at our Manufacturing Insight conference last November. Now let's take a look at one thing, the challenge and consideration. Everything is beautiful, but you're gonna face a lot of you may face a lot of challenges, right? Number one is it's a change management. What we see usually when we work with customers is that it's too nice to be true, right? Oh, we are doing that for so many years, so how come we were not able to identify that? You were not able to identify that because the technology didn't exist. That's as simple as that, because you were looking at existing data. What a priori does is not using your existing data to optimize and continuously improve what you do, where you were generating new data. And the other thing is the executive skepticism, which is, hey, tell me how I'm going to measure that, because if this is so great, then why we didn't do it before, right? And here we have a methodology at a priori that helps you when you put in place those technology to build trust. So weekly reports that helps you identify the progress we make, progress in terms of implementation, but also cost achievement, carbon footprint achievement, as well as lead time. I'm not going to spend more time on that. I think we have a lot of customers today that are doing that. A few examples here with some of the results they were able to achieve. Carrier, Dana is a great example as well. Not enough time to talk about it. CNH, Rafael in Israel. And with that said, I think it's time for Q&A.
Thanks a lot, Philippe, for sharing a lot of great stuff here. So I will actually ask the first question to Paul. So aside, from the great examples from a priori, what other areas of PTC technologies lend themselves to AI?
Okay, yeah. So good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Thanks, Torbjörn. So I think, PTC, as you can imagine, alongside a priori, is looking at many different areas of how AI can add value to our customers. And I think, we have sort of three key pillars, if you like, that we're looking at around AI. First of all, that it does drive genuine value, that it's actually going to have an impact on the business. The second thing is that it's scalable. And the third thing is about responsibility. And the responsibility really is around transparency of what's happening, but also around IP protection, which I think is top of mind for many companies these days around AI. But if we just take a quick look at a couple of other areas that we're looking at, and there are many, but just a few examples that come to mind. In the engineering space, so there is the notion of the co-pilot for the ALM part of our business. So particularly requirements management, test and validation management, that co-pilot, large language models that are backing that type of work. That I think is a natural first place for us to begin from an ALM perspective. If we look at the sort of CAD world, perhaps, and the PLM world, when we try to reduce part proliferation, when we're trying to reduce the part count that a company has, as an engineer starts to design inside the CAD system, we have sort of proof of technology demonstrators where they're using AI to look at the geometry and then also compare that to known geometry that's within the PLM environment to prevent people literally reinventing components that already exist. Things like brackets and so forth, those can proliferate a lot within a big organization. From a manufacturing perspective, I think that is often in the more traditional AI topics that Philippe introduced earlier. The poster child for the smart manufacturing industry 4 factory is of predictive maintenance. That's a perfect example. So we still do plenty of work in that area. But then we also use augmented reality driven and AI backed up analysis of quality of products on the line. So for example, end of line inspection, where we're actually scanning a component, scanning an assembly, an engine, and looking for known areas that we have potential quality issues. And so we're doing, we have an offering around that with Vuforia. And then on the service side, just lastly, again, things like service parts management, really useful from an AI perspective in terms of understanding failure rates, failure patterns, and also stocking that needs to happen within the various levels of a SPES distribution network. So areas like that. So like I said, just a few examples, many more being considered, but all of them against that framework of sort of value, scalability, and responsibility. So yeah, hopefully that is a sort of quick view on some of the things that we're doing. Torbjørn, back to you.
Thanks a lot, Paul, for sharing your PTC perspective on this one. So over to one of the last questions here before closing. Who is actually doing the implementation of your solutions? If it's you, it's the customer themselves, or are you normally using a third party?
So usually we have a expert service team, we have a customer success management team as well, helping the customers to adopt those type of technology. And what we do is we have a methodology that help the customer to also accelerate this change management thing. What we do is usually we have a plan that we share with the customers, and then we go with the customers, we define objectives, we meet weekly, and then after that, we build this trust with the executive team. So what we want to make sure is that the executive team is also seeing the value. So that's how we do it. We do it, with our teams.
Fantastic. And time is unfortunately running out, so many thanks everyone for joining this session here, and special thanks to Philippe and Paul for sharing a lot of good insights here in this specific topic. So with that, I hope to see you back on the 28th of June at the same time for a session about how leading manufacturing achieves measurable impact with a priori. So it's going to be you again on the spot a priori. So that's fantastic. And
Torbjørn, if I may, people do have a question or that we didn't have time to go through. They can of course send hello at a priori, send you the questions as well, or ask their PTC sellers, and we will find a way to answer those questions. They can go to our website as well and ask through the Drift bot. So, but I would like to make sure that if there are any questions, we have time to answer it. So I will take time to answer any question that people may have if they send that to you or anybody.
Fantastic, Philippe. Thanks for that. And with that, have a fantastic weekend, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye so far.
Bye-bye.